So we've had almost a week to dwell on the year 10 cinematic, and in this video I wanted to compile a bunch of unanswered questions which has came from this cinematic, as hopefully we can start to take a look back at this video in the future and see how many of them have since been answered. Now, I've already done a breakdown of the cinematic. I will be breaking down some stuff in this video as well when it is necessary for context, but if you want to see the breakdown video I made, then check that out on my channel. And also make sure you hit that sub button if you haven't already, since we're so close to 200k. And also drop a comment right now, let me know your favorite part of this cinematic. Right, let's get into this. Okay, so the very first thing we see is Doc and Hibana walking through the wasteland which was once Hereford base. And this already proposes our first question. What ending of the Assault on Hereford base event was canon? Because the assumption is, no matter if the Kerry's Legion or Rainbow won in that event, Hereford base gets destroyed regardless. The main difference is, in the Rainbow version, they manage to protect their data and escape with deimos. Whereas if the Kerry's Legion win, they can get access to Rainbow's data room, and I presume that they also escape with deimos as well. Now, I'm gonna assume that due to the lack of deimos in this cinematic, as well as the ending where we see Phobos interrogating Dokkaebi, I do believe that the Rainbow ending is most likely the canon one. So I do assume that Rainbow still have deimos in their custody. And when they transported him at the end of the event, they managed to escape with him. Now, of course, this technically isn't confirmed, but I think all the points are there and it does make the most sense. Which does move us over to our next point, which is the time in which this cinematic is taking place compared to when the assault happened. It's probably safe to assume that this is a good few hours after the assault ended, as the Battle Pass info for Operation Collision Point implied that Brava and Hibana were currently in Singapore, investigating leads in which Dokkaebi found on the Kerry's Legion server. And I believe that's also what Ella, Zofia, Sledge, and Smoke are doing in this cinematic as well, but we'll get into them in a minute. But this does seem to be the cleanup not too long after, since there are some cranes in the background as well, and it does seem like some operators have returned to the base. So just goes to show how long Lion must have been laying there. And the next question which arises from this is the involvement of Nighthaven themselves. When did they actually get involved? Was it before this assault or was it after this assault? Based on the lineup at the end of the cinematic, which does include Ella, Zofia, Smoke, and Sledge, and Nook, it could be safe to say that their little missions, which we see in the cinematic, happened prior to this assault, and this was them all coming together in the end. We did see in the Operation Collision Point Battle Pass that Callie was talking to Smoke, saying that it's time to suit up, and Callie said that Nighthaven would only ever get involved in this conflict if the reward outweighed the risk. So there must have been something happening here which has caused Callie to change her tone and say, right, now it's finally time. If it has something to do with the GSAC, who, remember, hosted a vote or are hosting a vote if they should shut Rainbow down. Maybe Nighthaven are involved in that and there's some financial gain that Callie can get from involving Nighthaven in this scenario. We're probably going to have to wait and see more about that and get into the nitty-gritty politics of it all. But regardless of that, Nighthaven and Rainbow are working together once again. Which moves us over to the next scene where we see Ella and Zofia, which one of my viewers pointed out are in Poland, more specifically Wrocław, which is the home place of both Ella and Zofia. And initially we only see Ella, but they are protecting this woman. Which leads us to a massive question here. Who is she? Is she an important figure who appeared on that Kerry's Legion list? Hence why both Ella and Zofia got deployed there, since they are familiar with the place since it is their hometown. Or is this someone who is actually related to Ella and Zofia? And maybe this is a big reason as to why Rainbow and Nighthaven are working together again. I saw some people theorizing that potentially it is their mother. I feel like she looks a bit too young to be their mother. Guess we can't rule out that she is potentially a Bosak and she is part of their family tree, or someone which they've known for a while, maybe someone who is close to their father, or a cousin. They could be related to them, or they could simply just be a person of importance, hence why Kerry soldiers are hunting her down, which is why Ella and Zofia are protecting and escorting her. But yeah, the identity of who she is definitely something I would love to learn. Now, not only do we see the Ella and Zofia mission in this, we also see one with another Rainbow and Nighthaven operative, and that is Sledge and Smoke. So the first question here is, where are they? In my breakdown video, I theorized that they are potentially in the UK. Now, the reason for this is, if Ella and Zofia were deployed to Poland, especially their hometown, would it be far-fetched to assume that Sledge and Smoke, who are both British, would then be deployed to do this mission, which is in the UK? I know Rainbow's whole thing is that they operate worldwide, but would it also be crazy to assume that two British characters know more about Britain than some other operators? And we can still see that Smoke is part of Nighthaven, as he does have the Nighthaven patch on his shoulder. Now, this entire segment is just really cool in my opinion. We get to see Sledge and Smoke intercepting what seems to be a movement of Kerry's Legion ordnance. We're seeing them rappelling down walls and working together. It was a really cool, gritty thing to see. I think Rainbow excels when it is this sort of gritty, realistic vibe, which honestly they've reinforced this entire cinematic, especially at the end. But Sledge and Smoke do see this transportation of arms, and there is a company on one of the crates called Polaris, which obviously presents the question, who are Polaris? Now, in real life, Polaris is a star. It's more commonly referred to, and you may know it as, the North Star, which I guess I should mention was the name of the operation when Thunderbird joined the game. Do I think there's any connotation there? Probably not. You know, Twist revealed that Phobos is actually Thunderbird. No, I don't think there's any link there. I just think that was cool to point out that it is the North Star, and that was the name of Thunderbird's season. But yeah, who this organization is, we are yet to see. In my breakdown video, I said that I feel like they're like a front for the Kerry's Legion. So, you know, that's the name they operate as. That's the name they pay tax under. It's a front business. It isn't a legitimate business, but poses as one, so they raise no suspicion. So that does seem, to me at least, be the company in which the Kerry's Legion transport their ordnance through, do all of their criminal networking through, as on the outside, it seems like a legitimate company. Either that, or they are a completely separate company to the Kerry's Legion, and they are arms dealers. Maybe even they're a private military themselves, which would introduce another interesting angle if we then have a rival private military to Nighthaven introduced into the story, which would then go on to develop this sort of underworld we have never seen before. But maybe I'm looking too much into it. But yeah, who are Polaris? And another thing I want to point out in this little bit and throughout the cinematic itself is the different levels of armor in which the Kerry's soldiers are wearing. And I wonder if this determines rank inside of the Kerry's Legion itself, because you have these ones wearing somewhat standard grey uniforms, but they are Kerry's soldiers, as you can see from the badges, and they are the most common ones seen in this cinematic. But then you also have these other ones seen in the cinematic, which could also be seen in the assault of Emerald Plains as well, who were working alongside Deimos, who have this sort of ghillie suit aspect to them and look a bit more advanced. So I wonder if these are the more high-ranking soldiers who work alongside Phobos and Deimos and whoever's at the top of the Kerry's Legion. You know, maybe they're regarded as the more advanced soldiers, but I thought that was worth pointing out. And our next question comes from the return of Nook. Now, if you aren't keeping up with the story, Nook has actually been on leave from Rainbow for a while now. This was after Rainbow initially suspected Nighthaven of being responsible for Yahata's death. All of that turned out to be Deimos and the Kerry's Legion. He was just picking the two sides together for his own game. But this led to a specific conflict between Nook and Grim, where Nook infiltrated Nighthaven's base and got in a fight with Grim, which then he retaliated by hunting her down, finding her address, and basically threatening to reveal her identity to the world. Only if she crossed Nighthaven again. So Nook went on leave from this. I imagine it was quite traumatic, but now she is officially back, and with Nighthaven working alongside Rainbow, I wonder if we'll get to see Nook and Grim sort of put their differences aside. I mean, that is what Habana was talking about through this trailer when it zoned in on Ella and Zilphia, but it can also mean Nook and Grim as well. But I feel like that is a storyline we are not finished with yet, so I'm quite excited to see where that goes. But it's nice to see Nook back in the lore. And I'll also add this one on top of the Nook one as well. Kerry soldiers seem to have camera lenses as their actual goggles. I mean, when you look at Phobos, he at least has them by the looks of it. They do seem to be lenses. So I wonder if that's how Nook was able to sneak, not only being stealthy, but just be immune to them seeing her altogether. At least for the higher level ones, because I think if you look at this engagement she takes, you've got two of the more standard soldiers and then one of those more higher ranking ones I talked about, and the two lower ranking ones seem to just have goggles. They seem to see her with no issue. But then if you look at the more higher ranking soldier, it seems like he's actually struggling to see where Nook is. So I wonder if you're like a Kerry's captain or something like that, you have a special lens which could be used as like an overlay to relay information, you know, some advanced technology for these captains to use, or presumably captains. But in this case, it seems that actually allowed allowed Nook to get the upper hand. I could be completely wrong here, but I think that could have been a really cool detail. Now, I think we should move on a little bit to the end of this cinematic, as there are a few questions which are posed with the whole Dokkaebi and Phobos scenario. So the first question is, why Dokkaebi? Why is she still alive? Why did they capture her? It has already been established from Deimos' point of view that leaving an enemy alive is a cowardly and weak thing to do. When Rainbow get the upper hand of him at Emerald Plains, he says this.
What are you waiting for? Pull the goddamn trigger, soldiers.
So for them to keep Dokkaebi alive, they must have a plan, and that's what Phobos says, all according to Deimos' plan moving into the next stage. And this isn't the first time which Deimos has mentioned Dokkaebi. In the comic book for Operation Twin Shells, he realizes that it was Dokkaebi who hacked into the Carry server, and he was like, you know, I gotta keep an eye on that one. So it seems like Dokkaebi was a massive part of Deimos' plan, especially with the infiltration of Hereford base. But why? What do they need from Dokkaebi? Is the reason they haven't killed her? Is it simply just going to be a hostage swap with her and Deimos, and that's Carrie's Legion way of getting Deimos back? Because I can't imagine Rainbow would just leave Dokkaebi there and let her die. Or is there a deeper meaning? It's already been established that Dokkaebi has one of the greatest minds on Rainbow itself, and she is extremely skilled when it comes to hacking. So there is a high chance that the Carrie's Legion are going to use her for something malicious. But yeah, this is something they've actually been setting up for a while, so Deimos must have put this plan in motion and relayed it to Phobos, maybe through some of the compromised recruits, and that was one of their main goals during the assault. But why Dokkaebi? What makes her so important? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Now, the next question we have to ask is a pretty obvious one, and I've already made a theory video about it, but who is Phobos? I made a theory video saying that he is part of the GSAC, and he's actually one of Rainbow's politicians, playing this game for his own gain, whether that's financial or for power, who knows. And of course, we got our first introduction of him in the Assault on Hereford base event itself, as he was the announcer for the Carry side. But yeah, definitely going to play a massive part in the lore this year and going forward. And I do wonder if he would potentially become an operator at some point. I mean, the same thing happened with Deimos, and it would be really cool to get more Carry soldiers as playable operators. The only one we do have is Deimos, and I guess if you want to count the skins for Striker and Sentry, you can technically be Carry soldiers, but it's not the same. So yeah, who are you, Phobos, and what are you doing with Dokkaebi? And the final question I have to ask, which is actually included in this scene, is who entered the room? I'm going to let the clip play. You can actually hear the door open and see Dokkaebi's reaction.
All according to Deimos' plan. Moving to phase 2. Phobos out.
So I wonder if this is just another Carry soldier entering the room. Again, I don't think it's Deimos, because as far as I can assume, he's probably still in Rainbow's captivity. Or maybe that wasn't the canon ending and Deimos is back with the Carry's Legion and it's him entering the room. Or maybe it's someone which Dokkaebi knows. Maybe it's one of our operators. But yeah, I feel like there might be importance with whoever walked in the room there, because I don't know, why else would they show it? Or maybe it's just a soldier who's about to interrogate her. But I imagine it would be Phobos doing that. But yeah, that is kind of every question I got from this new Year 10 cinematic. If there was anything else you think you should add, drop it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear if there's any more questions, and maybe there's some that we can already answer. Maybe you've overlooked something, or maybe I've overlooked something. But yeah, be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you are new. Catch you all later. I love you all. Stay safe. Peace.